So Sherry and we met with a client today, and the expectation is that LLMs can solve the problem with any sort of data. They can just tap into the data and get the answer. But what we realized was there are limitations on how reliably some LLMs can answer to certain types of data and some questions. So, for example, can we use LLMs to productively analyze our typical machine learning structured data that we have in a data frame? If you ask me that question, yes, it's possible. There's this library pandas.ai, which enables you to use LLMs along with your pandas data frames. And instead of using the Python syntax, you can now use natural language to query pandas data frames. Let me show you an example. Suppose I want to analyze the GDP values and happiness index in 10 countries. What I would do normally as a data scientist is I load the data into a data frame, as I'm doing in cell 5 here. And then I use this typical pandas syntax to analyze and query that data frame. So if I want to know the GDP and the happiness index of the United States, then this is how I would write that code. However, if you want to use natural language, suppose you're not very skilled with Python and pandas, but you have these data frames and you want to do your own analysis. Now, you can use large language models and use natural language to query these data frames. So here I'm using Google Palm large language model, and I'm using the Pandas AI library. This library has smart data frames, which takes our typical data frame and an LLM, and then provides a smart data frame for us to query using natural language. And what's important to remember here is all the methods and the syntax that we used in the old data frame, they work. So I can still use the same code to find the happiness index of United States. But if I don't know this syntax, then what I can do is I can actually chat with that smart data frame and ask it a question like return the values for United States, and it will return the same values for me. And then you can ask more advanced questions like return the top 5 GDP values, and it will go and find the correct GDP values, the top 5 GDP values. So that's like a very quick snippet of how LLMs are now allowing us to talk with data frames using NLP. Fantastic. But then the question is this production ready? Can you make sure that all the analysis that you want to do can be done through these NLP queries, through this library? Can you make sure that there is no hallucination, there is no prompt injection in your production, and what is the downstream impact of it? So you have to be aware of those limitations and implications in order for you to use a tool like this in production scale. So LLMs are quite hyped and they can do a lot. But when you want to solve a problem today with LLMs, it's important that you understand what are the current limitations that LLMs have. Yeah, we can look at the future, we can look at potential use cases, but if you're trying to bring something into production today, understand the limitations and think what's the right problem to solve with those LLMs.